Hey everybody, I wanted to talk a little bit about a video, or sorry, an article that's going around on Facebook right now about astrology. It's been posted by a group called IFL Science, right, which stands for I F and Love Science. And the article is titled something like, here, it's titled Negative Relationship Between Intelligence and Belief in Astrology, and it says that narcissism and low intelligence are the best predictors for belief in astrology. So I just wanted to talk about this and see. Well, one, I'd like to hear your opinion about this in the comments section. But two, I would like to dive a little bit into their methodology on how they arrived at this. So first, I just wanted to mention that the only intelligence test that they applied was a spatial reasoning test, right? And so there's a negative correlation between spatial reasoning. They did this like object rotation. So they only measured one type of intelligence, right? It's not a verbal intelligence. It's not an emotional intelligence. Um, it's not a kinesthetic intelligence. It's not even a mathematical or logical intelligence. It's simply spatial reasoning, right? That's it. Only spatial reasoning. So people who have lower spatial reasoning abilities have a tendency to believe in astrology more. It doesn't say anything about the merits or validity of astrology. It just says that a particular way of thinking spatially tends to not jive. Uh, People who are really good at spatial thinking tend to believe less in astrology. So this is a correlation. There's not even any causation behind this. Okay. I would also like to say that typically spatial reasoning is like a more masculine function in the brain. It doesn't mean women can't be good spatial reasoners, but what it does mean is that people who have very strong spatial reasoning abilities tend to be less receptive in other ways, right? They tend to have less emotional intelligence, right? Okay. I wanted to talk about the narcissistic personality index, right? Which is like, or inventory, the NPI. This is what is most likely used. They didn't cite it in the article, but it's the most commonly used test to assess whether someone is narcissistic, right? And it's self-reported, and the questions are all extremely obvious, right? So any of you could go and see the questions yourselves and look at them and be like, oh, yeah, that's obvious, right? So like here's some examples of the questions. I got it on my phone right here. I'm gonna read it for you, right? First question, and you're only given two choices, right? It's binary, and so you don't have like a middle choice. You don't have another option, and so sometimes neither choice really feels right, but you still have to choose one, which in and of itself is like a pretty big flaw. So here's the first one. I have a natural talent for influencing people, or I'm not good at influencing people. Now, I'm sure you can all guess which one of those is going to lead you to being more narcissistic, right? The one that says, I have a natural talent at influencing people. All right, well, that's great. Uh, why is that bad? Don't we all want to be able to influence people for the better, right? I mean, lots of really amazing humans have had a lot of influence for people, right? Martin Luther King, Jesus, the Buddha, Thich Nhat Hanh, all of these people have influenced millions. And so there's nothing wrong with being able to influence people. And someone who believes in astrology, right, has a greater level of self awareness, typically, right? Because they're taking the time to self reflect on their own chart and their own faults. And when they do this and they're more self aware and they know what their faults are and they have a better understanding of their own workings, then of course they're going to be able to influence people better because they understand people better because they spend the time to study this, to understand people, right? Astrology is understanding people. And so, of course, someone who believes in astrology is going to be able to influence people and in a positive way. I suggest all of you out there influence many people every day. This is a great thing to do. We want to influence people, right? Like, that's great. This is good. Okay. But you're more narcissistic if you have a natural talent for influencing people, right? Yeah. Okay. Modesty doesn't become me, or I'm essentially a modest person. Again, this one is kind of like more in the middle for me. I don't have like too strong of an argument for this one. You know, it could kind of go either way. On the one hand, we want people to be confident and to express themselves and to say what they need. Um, modesty is often this sort of Victorian era idea, sit down, shut up, color between the lines type thing of like not expressing yourself, right? And we're in a time where it's more important to express yourself. We're in a time where every voice matters. We're in a time where being too modest isn't helpful, right? If you're too modest, it's not the most helpful thing, right? A lot of people are really modest, and if they were less modest, the world would actually be a much better place. They're modest, and so they denigrate themselves and they lower their own self-worth, and they're not modest from like a real place of humility. It's like this false thing, and so we're all waking up to that. And so people who believe in astrology, again, are people who are on this journey of awakening. They're on this journey of becoming more empowered, right? And as we all become more empowered, then we realize that modesty, in a sense, is a little fake, right? Sometimes we just are modest to get our needs met. And so, like, it doesn't mean you have to be like totally egotistical, but it is like, and that's where I don't like this question, right? Like, here I am recording this video. Am I a narcissist? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. But here I am recording this video and putting myself out there. And, is this me being immodest? Is this like modesty does not become me because I'm talking about this? I don't know. You guys have to decide that. But I don't think so, I don't think so. I think that I'm just expressing, and I think that that's okay. And I want everyone to do that more, right? Like the whole world is moving in that direction because our voices matter. For too long, we've been, you know, the people have been pushed down, and modesty is like this virtue that's been cultivated by the ruling class, right? That's like one way to view it is like so. Yeah. All right. Here's the next question. I would do almost anything on a dare. I tend to be a fairly cautious person. This one, I can see it. I'm just gonna skip it. Like, I'll give him that one. All right. When people compliment me, I sometimes get embarrassed. Versus, I know that I am good because everybody keeps telling me so. See, for me, neither of those are true. I know that I'm good because I know that I'm good. We're all good. I know that everyone is good. That's why I know that we're good, because we're all good. We're humans. We're beautiful. We're all divine children of the light, of God, of the universe, of Source. We all have those seeds of goodness in us, and that's why I know I'm good, is because I have a seed in me and you have a seed in you, right? Like we all have seeds of goodness in us, and this is beautiful. And I don't get embarrassed when I'm complimented. So the first one is not true. Like when people compliment me, I say thank you. Why would I be embarrassed? They're either saying the truth and then there's nothing to be embarrassed about, or like they're sharing their opinion and then like, cool, thanks, that's your opinion. Thank you. So I have gratitude and I receive that, right? A compliment is love, right? To be complimented on something is someone expressing their appreciation for you. And so to have an ability to receive appreciation is so powerful and good, right? Like, let us receive that appreciation. Let you receive that appreciation. Why not? Why can't we receive appreciation? That's receiving energy of love, right? So don't be embarrassed if someone compliments you. Allow yourself to receive that. Be like, oh, thank you. You're so good too. I love you. Right? I don't get it. But if it, apparently if you don't choose that one, you're more narcissistic. But again, neither one is a good choice there. So okay, next one. The thought of ruling the world frightens the hell out of me. Or B, if I ruled the world, it would be a better place. Again, neither of those are good. I'm not scared of ruling the world. I never even think about that, right? Like, why would I even think about it? I don't want anyone to rule the world. Like, the world shouldn't necessarily even have a ruler. Which then goes to be, if I ruled the world, it would be a better place. Well, if I ruled the world, I would get rid of all rulers. So, like, maybe it would be better. Because then we wouldn't have rulers. And it would just be people. So do I answer A or do I answer B? Neither of those are good answers. It doesn't scare me because I'm not going to do it. I don't want it. No one, why would I want that? But it doesn't scare me either. And then if I did rule it, like I would just be like, power to the people. Here's my rulership style. You're all empowered. There are no rulers. Why do we need rulers? This is the age of Aquarius. We don't need rulers. Kings is like an old hat, you know? We don't need rulers. Okay. So again, bad question. 6. I can usually talk my way out of anything, or I try to accept the consequences of my behavior. This is another dicey one, right? Like what are this one could go either way, right? Do I want to talk my way out of things? Like, what am I talking my way out of? What is the consequences of my behavior? Like, consequences and talking your way out of things. Like, sometimes the consequences for our behavior, like, they used to be I smoked a joint and, like, I got pulled over. Now I'm in jail for 6 months. Should I accept that as a consequence, right? Because a lot of the consequences that we have are not just. They're unjust consequences, right? They don't match. The punishment doesn't fit the crime, you know? And so if the punishment doesn't fit the crime and it's not actually just, then should you just accept the consequence for that? And so this is a really context dependent question. Um, should we all take responsibility? Yes, but that's not like an option. So I don't know. I don't know what that one's a harder one for me. But I would be more likely to answer that, yeah, I'll accept the consequences and work within them to improve them to be more just consequences. That's what I would kind of go for on that one. 7. I prefer to blend in with the crowd, or I like to be the center of attention. Eh, what? I don't neither. Like when it's my moment, I'll be at the center of attention, and when it's not, I won't be. So again, not a good question. I don't prefer either. Right? Again, this is like I'm a sheep or I'm a lion, right? Like that's what this question is saying. Like I prefer to blend in with the crowd. You just want to be a sheep and go along with everybody? Versus I prefer to be the center of attention. Do you want to be the king? Like you want to be the ruler? Like no, neither. I just want to be me. Like sometimes I'll be the center of attention and sometimes I won't. It's just context dependent on the moment. So again, really bad question and a sort of lack of self-awareness, and it's coming from an authoritative standpoint. This entire index is coming from an authoritative standpoint. It's saying defer to authority. That's what it's telling you to do. That's what this whole NPI is telling you to do. There's 40 questions. I could go through all of them, but I'm not going to. Look at it yourself. I'll go through a couple more. But it's really like, do you bow to authority or do you stand in your own power? If you stand in your own power, you're a narcissist. If you bow to authority, you're a good little boy and girl. No, it's not that way. That's not, no. These questions are loaded. This is a loaded friggin' exam. It's loaded. And so the people who believe in astrology and study astrology are much less likely to bend to authoritative figures. They're much less likely to be a sheep. They're willing to stand in their own power. It doesn't mean they have to be, the ruler or the king. They know that they are empowered as a person because they've done that self-reflection. They have that self-awareness. They're studying themselves, right? Astrology is a study of the self. How can you improve yourself and make your life better? How can you be more empowered? And so a lot of these questions you'll answer and be like, right? Like here's another one. I am assertive versus I wish I were more assertive. Being assertive makes you a narcissist? Really? That's how this is gonna work? So, it's really it's really clear that a lot of these questions, if you answer that you're assertive, you're more higher on the scale of narcissism. Assertive people are narcissists. That's how the world works. Like that's how these questionnaires work. This is not what's being shown to us is not true. Okay, if you look at this article, it just uses this word narcissist, but it doesn't even describe how it gets to that word until you look into what this NPI is, right? Look at the Narcissistic Personality Index and judge for yourself, right? And so, here's another one, right? I like to look at myself in the mirror. I'm not particularly interested at looking at myself in the mirror. If you like to look at yourself in the mirror, you're a narcissist. You want to look beautiful? Maybe you want to look beautiful for other people. It doesn't even say why, right? A lot of the women in our culture spend a lot of time looking at themselves in the mirror. Is it because they're a narcissist? Or is it because that they're trying to bend to the expectations of an unfair and not really great society right now, right? They're not doing it for themselves, they're doing it for other people. Does that make them a narcissist? Right? Do I like to make sure that I look okay? Is that bad? To have some self-care, right? Versus I'm not particularly interested in looking at myself in the mirror. Neither of those questions are great. I do sometimes look at myself in the mirror, like if I want to, I'm a little scruffy right now. I usually have a beard, but when I'm engaging in, self-care and making sure that I am okay, right, presentable, right, nothing wrong with this. It doesn't mean I don't like interested or I like to. It's just neither question is good. Right? So and then here's another one, right? I am much like everybody else versus I'm an extraordinary person. Both. It's both. I'm very much like everyone else. And I'm also extraordinary because I'm uniquely me and you're uniquely you. And let you be extraordinary, right? Extraordinary. I pray that the world, that everyone becomes an extraordinary person. Everyone. I want every single soul in the whole world to be extraordinary, right? And to be like everyone else because then you're all extraordinary and you're all, you know, doing what you came here to do, fulfilling your role, being your true self, right? And so people who look at and believe in astrology, right? Like the mirror one, they self-reflect more to improve themselves, to grow, to make a greater impact in the world because the world needs a lot of people making greater impacts, right? We need us to not sit back and not make an impact. Every person needs to go out and make the greatest impact that they can every day, and the world gets better. Every person needs to go out there and be extraordinary, and then the world gets better. But you're all are narcissists for believing in astrology. What? Like, no, you. So, I really invite you to go out, look at the Narcissistic Personality Index, look at the spatial reasoning thing that they did, and determine for yourself that, like, if you believe that what they're calling narcissism is even valid, and whether or not you believe that these things, of course, these things, if you look at this test, the people who believe in astrology are going to score more narcissistically on this test because they have a greater level of self-reflection and self-awareness. Right? Narcissist looks at himself. He reflects. He has self-love. None of these are necessarily bad things, right? None of these are necessarily bad things. It's just you bring that self love out into the world, and then you can love others as well too. You can't actually love another human being until you love yourself first, right? Because love is something that you share. It's not something you get from somebody to extract from them, right? Love comes from within and then is brought forth to share. Okay, that's all I have to say on this topic. I think it's a very, very flawed study. It's very flawed science. It's not good science. And of course, the people who are doing this don't have the highest level of emotional intelligence and awareness. So, of course, they're not going to believe in astrology. They have a mechanistic worldview, and that's just that. And I don't want to speak too badly about them. I don't know what's going on for them that much, but I do want to say that, like, it's a very flawed study. And the NPI itself is very flawed. Look at the questions, super flawed. All right, thank you. And astrology is beautiful and magical, and keep using it to improve yourself. Keep using it to make the world a better place. Keep using it to understand yourself better. Uh, don't be like, oh, somebody said I'm less intelligent and a narcissist. I better not study astrology. No, like, please love yourself, study yourself so that you can know how you work. And if you know how you work, you can unlock your genius and bring forth that light to the whole world because we need you. Be extraordinary. Don't be a sheep. Be extraordinary.